I didn't sleep much. I lay there longer than usual, staring at the ceiling, replaying the words from the night before. Not the speculation, not the commentary, just the statements themselves, carefully chosen, deliberate. Eventually, I got up. Before bed, I'd done a quick walkthrough of the house. Nothing dramatic, just habits. Doors locked, garage secured, bug-out bags where they always were, a glance at the weather, a glance at the street, just in case. It didn't make me feel safer. It made me feel prepared. Morning came quietly, too quietly. I reached for my phone before I even sat up. Social media was already overwhelming. Clips of the announcement. Reactions layered on reactions. Arguments about wording. Screenshots of headlines repeating the same phrases over and over again. Then the videos started surfacing. Small riots. Looting. Broken storefront windows. Mostly in major cities. Honestly, it wasn't as bad as I thought it might be. I'd expected more chaos, more panic. This looked familiar. The same kind of unrest that followed big events in the past, just pointed in a new direction. Still, it was early. I rolled out of bed and checked email. One message stood out immediately. An all-staff note from HR. Out of an abundance of caution, employees are encouraged to work from home today. No explanation beyond that. No timeline, just encouragement. I scrolled further. Another email, this time from the boys' school. Classes canceled for the day. Remote learning information to follow. Again, no details. Just precaution. I stared at the screen longer than I needed to. Work from home. School canceled. Two institutions deciding independently that today wasn't a normal day. I set the phone down and listened. The house was still asleep. Outside, a car passed like any other morning. No sirens, no shouting, no helicopters overhead. The world looked the same. But decisions were already being made behind the scenes. And that was what bothered me. I wasn't worried about aliens. Not really. I was worried about how people react when something fundamental shifts. When the rules they assumed were permanent suddenly aren't. Trust doesn't break all at once. It erodes, quietly. I made coffee and stood at the kitchen window while it brewed. Today felt like the kind of day where nothing dramatic happens. But everyone remembers exactly where they were. Everyone else was still asleep. I sipped my coffee and scrolled through social media for a minute, more out of habit than curiosity. Same clips, same arguments, same shaky phone videos from cities I didn't live in. I set the phone down and grabbed my notebook. I kept notes about my preps in there. Nothing obsessive, just lists, dates, reminders. Things I didn't want to trust to memory when it mattered. The government had just admitted there were aliens. They didn't say it outright. They wrapped it in language and qualifications. But that's what they said. There was no chance the riots and looting would calm down after that. Not right away. People don't process news like this by becoming reasonable. They process it by reacting. It felt like time to change gears. My thoughts started to wander further than they had the night before. This could get bad. Why now? Why tell us this at all? Governments don't volunteer information unless they have to. And they don't do it subtly unless they're trying to control the reaction. Was something coming? I flipped a page in the notebook and started thinking about the family. Not supplies, not gear, just people. Where we were, where we could go if staying put stopped making sense. We lived in a neighborhood just outside of town. Not high traffic, not isolated either. Quiet enough on a normal day, busy enough if things ever pushed outward from the city. If it got bad enough, we'd have to leave. Northern Michigan came to mind. The family cabin, tucked away near the bridge. It had always been the fallback, remote enough, familiar, a place we knew. But even that thought didn't settle me. Would it even be safe? Would anywhere be? The questions stacked up faster than the answers ever could. I closed the notebook and took another sip of coffee, letting the house stay quiet a little longer. Whatever this was turning into, it wasn't something I could solve all at once, but I could start thinking ahead. And that, at least, was something I knew how to do. I pulled up my favorite podcast on my phone and slipped my earbuds in. The host was usually level-headed, curious but disciplined. He'd had all kinds of people on over the years. Movie stars, comedians, scientists, geologists, skeptics. He let people talk, and he asked good questions. That's why I trusted him. What caught me off guard was the guest. It was the same conspiracy guy I'd listened to the day before. The host hadn't had him on in years. Not since things got too heated the last time. He was controversial. Not because he was always wrong, but because he went places most people didn't want to follow. Seeing his name there made my stomach tighten a little. Whatever had happened yesterday was enough to bring him back on. I stared at the screen for a second longer than I meant to, then hit play. That was when I realized this wasn't just noise anymore. People who normally avoided each other were starting to talk again. And that meant something had shifted.
All right, so yesterday happens. Presidential address, non-human intelligence. No threat, no details. You've been talking about this kind of thing for years, and suddenly everyone's pretending it came out of nowhere. What do you make of it, Alex?
I make of it that they finally ran out of time.
Time for what?
For managing the story quietly. Look, they didn't disclose because they wanted to. They disclosed because they had to get ahead of something.
You're saying this wasn't about transparency.
Not even close. This was narrative control.
Okay, so let's get into it. You've always said this isn't just one thing, not one craft, not one intelligence.
That's right, Joe. There's more than one non-human race.
All right.
Most of them aren't hostile. That's the part people don't like hearing because it complicates the story. Some of them have been interacting with us since right after World War II. That's when it really started. Recoveries, agreements, exchanges.
Exchanges of what?
Information, observation, access.
You're saying contact goes back that far?
I'm saying the government didn't suddenly discover this last year. They've been living with it for generations.
And the others?
The others don't agree with what's happening here.
Meaning?
They see Earth as an experiment, a long-running one, intervention without ownership, letting humanity develop on its own terms. And they don't like the results. They think the human race is fundamentally flawed.
A pause. When you say, don't like the results, what does that actually mean?
They believe the experiment should be ended.
Ended how?
Reset, sterilization, irradiation.
The host exhales sharply.
That's a hell of a claim.
I know, and I don't say it lightly.
So let me get this straight. Some non-human groups are observing us. Some are interacting. And another group wants to shut the whole thing down.
Yes.
And yesterday's announcement was about what? Preparing people?
Conditioning them. You don't drop that kind of information unless you're trying to normalize something ahead of time.
A longer silence this time.
Okay. Do you have anything concrete? Anything beyond theory?
Do you really want to hear something that'll mess with your head?
Yeah.
I've heard audio.
Audio of what?
One of them speaking.
Speaking how?
Not a language, not anything we'd recognize. No syntax, no rhythm like human speech. It's layered, harmonic, almost mechanical, but organic at the same time.
You're saying you have a recording of a non-human intelligence?
I'm saying I've heard it, and it doesn't sound like anything on this planet.
The host laughs once, sharp and nervous.
Man, that's a lot.
It should be.
And you think this is connected to why they spoke yesterday?
I think yesterday was the first move in a longer process.
Which is?
Getting humanity ready to hear things they were never meant to hear all at once.
All right. If you're saying you've heard it, I've got to ask. Can we listen to it?
I can send it.
You have it with you?
I wouldn't be here if I didn't.
Okay, send the file to my assistant. Jamie, check your email. All right, Jamie's got it. Before we play this, I want to be clear. I have no idea what this is. I don't know where it came from. I'm not vouching for it. I'm just reacting like everyone else. Jamie, go ahead. I don't even know how to process that. I mean, how do we know this is real? I could have put something like that together in minutes. Anyone with the right tools could fake a sound like that.
You can believe it or you can dismiss it. That part's up to you. But we're gonna find out soon enough if it was real, aren't we?
I pulled the earbuds out. The house was completely silent. I was sitting on the stool in the kitchen, coffee long gone, cold in my hand. No TV, no voices, no movement, just that sound. Or the memory of it, looping in my head. I didn't know if it was real. I didn't know if it was fake. And for the first time since this started, I wasn't sure which answer bothered me more. The house stayed quiet, and I stayed there a little longer than I needed to. The sound of the dog's nails clicking against the hardwood broke the silence. That familiar rhythm, sharp taps echoing down the hallway, snapped me out of my thoughts. They rounded the corner first, tails wagging, completely unaware of anything beyond breakfast. Trailing behind them were my two older boys, 8 and 6, still rubbing sleep from their eyes, still in that space where the world is big, but not that big yet. I watched them climb onto the stools next to me. They didn't ask about yesterday. Not really. And I wondered if a kid that young even could understand what had been said. Words like non-human intelligence don't mean much when your world is school, toys, and whether there's syrup for pancakes. We sat there for a moment, quiet but comfortable. Then I got up and started making breakfast. Eggs, pancakes, simple things, familiar things. The smell filled the kitchen, warm and ordinary, the kind of routine you can hold on to when everything else feels uncertain. For a little while, the world narrowed back down to a griddle, a spatula, and 2 kids swinging their legs off stools. And in that moment, that was exactly what I needed. My youngest finally wandered in a few minutes later, still half asleep, trailing behind my wife. He'd snuck into our bed sometime in the middle of the night, like he did almost every night, and only just decided it was time to start the day. We all sat together in the kitchen and ate. Nothing felt rushed. No one was talking over anyone else. Just forks on plates and the low hum of the house waking up. My wife and I talked quietly while the kids ate, discreetly, enough that they wouldn't pick up on it if we chose our words carefully. We compared what we'd seen on our phones that morning, the clips, the messages, the scattered reports. For the most part, the kids stayed blissfully unaware. When I told them there was no school today, the reaction was immediate. Excited voices, chairs scraping back. They bolted out of the kitchen and disappeared into their rooms, already arguing about what to play. The house felt lighter for a moment. I waited until they were gone before speaking again. "I'm not worried about that audio clip," I said. "That could be anything." She nodded. She knew that already. "It's everything else," I continued. "The timing, the reactions, institutions pulling back at the same time." She leaned against the counter, listening. "If things start to turn," I said carefully, "we should think about loading up and heading north. The cabin. Not in a rush. Not yet. Just sooner than later." She didn't answer right away. She didn't dismiss it either. And that told me she was thinking the same thing. My wife turned the TV on. The tone was different immediately. Red numbers crawled across the bottom of the screen. Markets open and already sliding. Anchors trying to stay calm while the graphics did the opposite.
We're seeing significant volatility this morning as investors react to yesterday's announcement.
The Dow down hard, the Nasdaq worse. Analysts talking fast, saying very little. They cut to footage from cities. Looting had picked up overnight. Small groups, opportunistic, not organized, but more widespread than the clips I'd seen earlier on my phone. Police lines forming. Storefront glass boarded up mid-morning. Still not collapse, but no longer isolated.
Officials stress this unrest is not directly related to...
The anchor stopped.
We're going to take you live now to the White House.
The press briefing room came into view. Same podium, same seal, different energy. The press secretary stepped up, face tight, posture rigid.
The president's remarks yesterday were intended to provide transparency while maintaining public calm.
That word again, calm.
There is no immediate threat. There has been no change to national security posture.
Hands shot up across the room.
Can you clarify what the president meant by non-human intelligence?
Is the administration confirming contact with extraterrestrial life?
How long has the government known about this?
What is Majestic 12?
The press secretary didn't blink.
I'm not going to speculate on classified programs or historical labels.
Another reporter cut in.
Has the government been in contact with these entities since World War II?
Are they friendly or hostile?
Are there multiple non-human groups?
The room buzzed. The press secretary waited.
There is no verified information suggesting hostility.
That wasn't an answer.
Why disclose this now? Was this disclosure forced? Are there upcoming events the public should be aware of?
A pause.
The timing reflects an evolving understanding and the public's right to know.
That didn't answer it either. My wife muted the TV. We stood there for a second. The images still moving silently. Markets falling, people running out of stores with bags, reporters talking over each other. This feels different, she said. I nodded. It wasn't the looting, it wasn't the market. It was the way no one seemed prepared to answer the same questions everyone was asking. They weren't explaining, they were containing. And that was the moment my prepper brain stopped observing and started prioritizing. Not panic, planning. Because when institutions stop explaining and start repeating themselves, it usually means they're buying time. And time is something you don't waste. I went down to the basement and into the storage room. It had always been my room. The boys called it the safe room. The place we went if something serious ever happened. Storms, power outages, anything that made the house feel less solid than it should. Aliens hadn't exactly been on the list. I pushed that thought aside and stayed focused. I took inventory the same way I always did. Quietly, methodically. Food, water, heating options, medical supplies, self-defense. Nothing was missing. Nothing had gone bad. Everything where it was supposed to be. Along one wall sat the backpacks. One for each of us. Nothing extreme, just the basics. Enough to move, enough to think clearly if staying put stopped being the smart option. Sometimes bugging in isn't a choice you get to make. I pulled the bags down, added a few things that made sense in the moment, and carried them upstairs one by one. I didn't announce it, didn't explain it, just moved with purpose. Outside, I opened the back of the SUV and loaded everything in, not because we were leaving, not yet, but because time matters when decisions stop being theoretical. If we needed to go, I didn't want that moment to start in the basement. I closed the hatch and stood there for a second longer than necessary, listening to the normal sounds of the neighborhood. Cars passing, a dog barking somewhere down the street. Everything still looked fine. That didn't mean it would stay that way. And for the first time since this all started, I felt like I'd taken a step ahead of whatever was coming. Even if I still didn't know what that was, I heard my wife call my name from inside the house. Not loud, not panicked, just enough edge in her voice to tell me to stop what I was doing. I shut the hatch on the SUV and went back inside. She was standing in front of the TV, arms folded tight against herself. The boys were nowhere in sight, still playing, unaware. On the screen, a news anchor stared into the camera, jaw set.
We're receiving reports of large unidentified objects appearing in the sky over multiple cities.
The words felt heavier than the delivery.
These objects are not aircraft. They are not weather phenomena, and at this time, officials have not provided an explanation.
The feed cut to shaky video. A massive shape hung low in the clouds. Black, gray, metallic. No visible propulsion. No sound that matched its size. It was enormous. At least 2 football fields long. Maybe more. It didn't move quickly. It didn't move aggressively. It just existed, hovering.
Similar objects have now been confirmed over several major population centers.
Another clip. Another city. Another angle. Different continents. Same shape. The anchor kept talking, but I wasn't really listening anymore. They weren't arriving. They were already here, slowly, deliberately, as if speed wasn't necessary. The camera zoomed in on the edge of the object, light bending strangely along its surface. No markings, no seams, nothing familiar.
Officials are urging the public to remain calm.
That word again. Calm. I felt my wife's eyes on me. Neither of us spoke, because this wasn't speculation anymore. This wasn't testimony or language or interpretation. This was scale, presence, and whatever question I'd been asking myself all morning, why now, suddenly felt like it had an answer. They weren't watching anymore. They were making themselves visible, everywhere. My heart dropped. We didn't live in a major city, but we weren't remote either. Our town was a decent size, about 150,000 people. Big enough to matter, big enough to show up on a map, big enough to be noticed. The thought hit me all at once. Do we stay here and see what happens? Or do we leave now? Staying meant familiarity, walls, supplies, a place we understood. Leaving meant uncertainty, roads, traffic, timing, other people making the same calculation. I looked at my wife. She didn't ask the question out loud. She didn't need to. The answer wasn't clear yet. Not really. Because leaving too early can be just as dangerous as leaving too late. And whatever these things were, they weren't attacking. They weren't firing. They weren't moving with urgency. They were just there, hovering, watching. I thought about the boys upstairs, about how normal their morning still felt, about how quickly that could change depending on the decision we made in the next few minutes. I took a slow breath and forced myself to stay grounded. This wasn't the moment to panic. It was the moment to decide what would make us harder to trap if things shifted again. Stay and risk being surrounded. Go and risk being exposed. I didn't have an answer yet, but I knew I wouldn't get much more time to find one. I went out to the shed and grabbed a couple extra 5-gallon jugs of gasoline. The trip up north would take about 4 hours. We could make it on a full tank, but extra fuel mattered, not for the drive itself, but for everything that might come after if plans changed. Nothing ever goes exactly to plan. We waited. Hours passed with the TV on and phones nearby. More footage came in. Looting spreading, fires starting in places that already felt fragile. Still no new official announcements, No briefings. No explanations. That silence was louder than anything else. By a little after 1 in the afternoon, my wife and I didn't need to talk about it anymore. We'd both seen enough. It was time to go. We kept it calm. The boys were told to grab their blankets, shoes, and a few clothes they could carry. No rush. No urgency in our voices. Just instructions. My wife got the dogs loaded into the back of the SUV and helped strap the kids in. I grabbed the last few things we'd need. The cabin was already stocked. This wasn't starting from nothing. Before heading out, I went into our bedroom closet. I pulled out my rifle and my pistol, nothing dramatic, just tools I'd hoped would never matter. I added a small bag with extra magazines and ammunition and carried it out to the vehicle. Outside, the neighborhood was still. Every driveway full. Every house quiet. Too quiet. No doors slamming. No engine starting. No signs that anyone else was making the same call. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was I overreacting? Was everyone else just waiting it out? Or were we the only ones willing to leave before someone told us to? I shut the door, got behind the wheel, and started the engine. The sound felt louder than it should have. We pulled out of the driveway and headed north. Whatever came next, we wouldn't be here to watch it unfold.